the English are so poor, it's amazing to me. In that, you look at this squad and all that we spoke about coming into the tournament, the talent that England were able to call on, them being among the favourites to lift the title, and seeing their performances throughout, and again during the course of the day, it was impossible to explain. And I credit TV for trying to say that there was no connection, but you have incredibly talented footballers who play at the highest level. To me, it looked like the most nervy performance I'd seen from a major international outfit that I've seen for some time. Yet we're talking about players who've just finished winning the Champions League, players who are winning the Premier League, players who week in, week out play under similar pressure for their club teams, yet all of a sudden just look decidedly average in an England shirt. And it's hard to understand or explain why there's that disconnect.
Lots of question marks over Gareth Southgate and his coaching, Frank. And what was interesting today was the fact that it didn't work in the opening game against Serbia. It didn't work against Denmark, but yet he stuck with the same plan. The only change, obviously, Conor Gallagher coming on for Trent Alexander-Arnold. But that isn't exactly tearing up the plan, is it? It's sticking to this same rigid plan that Southgate seems to be obsessed with, which isn't working.
Yeah, that's sad because he's becoming very stubborn right now, and when you see that once it doesn't work, twice it doesn't work, maybe thrice, you will have to change something, and he didn't. And the no connection, no chemistry between the players were very obvious today. And you don't feel that something's going to happen. The first 5 minutes, I saw two English players saying, "Okay, guys, calm down." Calm down. No, you have to put the rhythm on. You have to give the pace of the game. Otherwise, you're not going to surprise the Slovenian. And that's unbelievable. And nobody takes any risks. Like, nobody wants to take the leadership. That's unbelievable. And you can name names. You know, when you see Bellingham, Rice, Kane, they are leaders. They should be there. Walker, come on, Stones. We can name so many others. And you say, how come those players can't take the leadership and say, okay, guys, you know, we don't care what the coach says. We have to prove we're on the field. It's a game of intuition. So let's go for it. There is no feeling, no intuition. We're going to talk about France, and I'm going to copy what I'm saying right now with England. But that's crazy. I mean, it's maybe due to the bookers who say that England and France were the favorites. They're showing the complete opposite of that. And right now, I'm questioning the way they play and how they're going to perform in the last 16th.
Mario, have you got an explanation for this? And you've got the best player in Spain, the best player in England, Harry Kane, of course, leading scorer in Germany. How do all these players put an England shirt on and look like they're rubbish twin brothers?
No, look, I worked on the games too, and when we talked about it, the key thing is, I think it's like there is no surprise. You know, when you play the game, you also have to surprise your opponent. You know, like sometimes you have to eliminate a player, and I don't see that. You know, like Frank highlighted, like a Foden. You know, so I want to see them dribble past someone so they can create at least one man less and then attack. But I don't see that. So the key thing for me is that, and the tempo is so low for England. You know, if you want to surprise them, they were waiting for you, and if you don't speed up the game, like sometimes it goes tick, tick. Tick, tick. It looks great because you don't take any risk. But it's also that it looks great of keeping the ball, but it doesn't look great by surprising them, of really opening them up. So I think that is one of the key things, and that's why your striker is never going to get any chances. Like, okay, one, maybe he pulled them down, and the next one, they did the same thing, Gay did the same thing on the opposite side. But for me, the thing for England now is like, Harry Kane came out and said that wearing the jersey is pretty heavy. I think that's for anybody that represents his national team. But one of the key things you have to understand is that people are going to want to see the form that you have at your club playing for your country. And I think at the moment we don't see that.
I think I already know the answer to this, Stevie, but I'll ask it anyway. Is there any excuse that Slovenia knew that a draw would be enough pretty much to get them through? Hence they sat back. Hence it was more of a task for England to break down 11 men behind the ball?
No, absolutely not. And I would suggest that in the first half, there wasn't that much between the two sides. Second half, England pressured them. But they pressured them without hurting them. You know, there wasn't a chance in the second half. You know, you could say there was one chance in the first half Conor Gallagher, I believe, should have got his head on it, should have put it in the net. But that was it in this game.
Yeah.
So I absolutely don't think you can look at Slovenia and say that they were capable of making this so tough for England. England made it tough for themselves. And let's be honest, yes, we can question things that Gareth Southgate does. But when you've put a team on the field with the names on the jerseys against a side like Slovenia, who you saw at the end of the game, this is utopia to get through the group. But it's not good enough from the England players. And I'm absolutely not putting all the blame on Southgate.
Right.
Players have to play, they have to get their head right, they have to get their attitude right, and they have to go and produce. And you can't always just blame the manager for putting the wrong people in the wrong spot. And you certainly can't do it. With the amount of players that you said, Harry Kane, top man in Bayern, Bellingham, top man in Spain. I mean, go through the whole side. John Stones.
Yeah.
I mean, go through the whole team. The players are responsible. And one of the stats we heard during the game just sums it all up. That Phil Foden had only connected with one pass with Harry Kane halfway through this game and 2 previous games. That tells you all you need to know.
What's going on with someone like Jude Bellingham?
Well, Jude Bellingham's a guy who's at his best, certainly in an attacking sense, getting in the box late. But when you're not sure what's going on around you, particularly in the wide areas, when to go, when to stay, when to get involved, then you're kind of wasting a lot of energy running around trying to figure out who's going to put it in. If it goes in a certain spot, surely you're going to whip it. And then whenever it isn't that right spot, he makes his run, the ball doesn't come, they come back out, they go all the way around. So a guy like Bellingham who thrives on doing damage to the opposition in their penalty box has no idea when to go and when to stay.
So with Bellingham, you can offer up an excuse because of the system?
I think with Bellingham, you can offer up an excuse because...
What about Harry Kane?
Playing Trent Alexander in the middle of the park on the first 2 games absolutely didn't work. Conor Gallagher absolutely didn't work. And we saw when Mainu came in the second half, whether that was to do with Slovenia running out of steam or England putting pressure on, Mainu made it better. And that freed up, in my opinion, Bellingham to get involved a lot more.
What about Harry Kane?
I can't help thinking Harry Kane's not 100% fit. Because if he is, then he's just looked gassed.
Right.
Because he just doesn't look sharp. He don't, I mean...
Isn't that something you could tell in training, though? Couldn't you tell that there's a problem with it?
If I'm Gareth Southgate and Harry Kane is 80% fit, I'm playing Harry Kane.
Right.
It's just that simple. I'm playing Harry Kane. And I do not believe... Sorry, Shaq. I do not believe that Harry Kane was brought off against Denmark for any other reason than he was feeling it.
Go on, Frank.
Yeah, you remember that I got mad of Nagelsmann for not resting some players on the 3rd game, and I could say the same with France, but I can say that also about England. I mean, they play against Slovenia. With all due respect, you know that with the players that you have on the bench, you have the right to think that it could be enough to beat them, or at least draw with them to get the first spot in the group stage. So why don't you rest some player? I think Bellingham is not looking good because of the system, but because maybe he's a little bit tired as well. And you have the right to rest some players because the competition is not over. I mean, the hardest way, the hardest state, is going to be next in the last 16, and after you will have the quarterfinal and semi. And according to everybody, England has to win it. So why don't you rest Bellingham or Kane for at least 1 game, the 3rd game where you're almost sure to go through, and then get fresh player for the last 16. Makes no sense for me. And Deschamps did the same today, where they were already qualified. He rested only a little bit Griezmann. Nagelsmann didn't do anything. I don't know what's wrong with those new era of coaching, but it doesn't work for me. And you have players completely exhausted by a long season, but on top of it, you play them, and they're not performing well.
To answer that, I don't think Gareth Southgate feels he's in a position to rest players because of how poor they've been. so far this tournament because of the criticism that he's come in for. That all of a sudden now he makes changes, and those changes are some of the changes that the media and fans have been asking about, and it works. And now all of a sudden, you look silly. Because you're proving yourself wrong. And then what do you do in the next games in trying to bring back what you think is your starting 11? So I think the fact that Gareth Southgate does not rest players is because of poor decisions to start with, how poor England have been, and the criticism that they've come under. He just doesn't have that confidence. Now, for me, when I watch England play today, and it's good that we have two defenders on with us, but I felt that every single time, either centre half and Walker in particular, whenever they got the ball, every single time it was 3 and 4 touches. Every single time. And as a result, Slovenia can just drop off. He gets the ball, he takes 3 touches, they figure out where everybody is, they move it over to Stones or to Walker, and they just shift over. So they, at no point, to your previous question about the ineffectiveness of Jude Bellingham, it's because every time a defender picks the ball up, every time the play starts, by the time that first ball is played into midfield, there's just no space because that defender's already taken 3 and 4 touches. Right. So there is absolutely no way that anybody could find any space. And then from Slovenia's point of view, then when they dwell on the ball and they make at times risky passes out to the back, Slovenia's just winning the ball back 20 yards, 30 yards away from England's goal. So they were having really good possession. They changed in the second half slightly, and England were a lot better. Well, a lot better than they were in the first half. In the second half, but that for me kind of spoke to why England just can't take a game by the scruff of the neck.
Mario?
Yeah. No, for me, it's more like, like what I said it, and Chaka, I think, highlighted it too. The tempo of the game. If you the way they play their teams, right? They have the influence of maybe from different countries and whatever, it doesn't matter. But they're all trained with certain attitudes in the sense of you got to speed up the game, it's too slow. But then what I feel is also, why does it take so long to if you see that, let's say you want to take off a Foden, right? You don't like the way he doesn't take the risk that you expect him to be or dribble past people. Why does it take so long to put Gunnar on? And then Palmer, you understand, why do those kids have to wait that long to get the opportunity? If you know already what position you are, and I think Frank highlighted it too, if you know that you're already a step ahead. But guys, come on, those guys are part of your group because they're talented. So then I also say, put them on because they want to prove your wrongness. And that is sometimes good as a coach because we all been in a position. When you sit on the bench, let me tell you, I'm boiling and I'm waiting for him. Just even if he gives me 5 minutes, man, I'll make it look like it was 10 minutes he gave me. And you made a mistake, coach. And I want him to do that and allow him to go out there. It takes him too long sometimes to bring the guys on. What's
interesting is that the way that the draw has worked out is that the big boys, your likes of Portugal, Germany, France and Spain, are on one side of the bracket and England are on the other side of the bracket. That is why ESPN Bet have England as favourites to go all the way and win this tournament because obviously the argument is it's very difficult to put all your money on a side of the bracket that contains the big boys, and it's a lot easier for England. So is there anything, Frank, is there any psychological advantage that England have of being right, look, we've won a watch here, we've scraped through this group, we've got the good side of the draw, now we need to kind of almost rip up the plan, it isn't working. What will work is bringing in the likes of Mainu and Cole Palmer just to open things up, to up that tempo. Do you think Gareth Southgate has got the guts to go and do that in this first knockout stage?
No, I don't think so. I think he knows that he's been very fortunate to avoid France, Spain, and Portugal and Germany. But I think he's going to be scared of playing Switzerland because they're very solid. They're not as good as maybe the others, but I tell you, they're going to surprise. And you can name others, the Netherlands, they're going to wake up. I mean, they were very in reaction today, but they're going to be somehow in action. And everybody knows that for England, it doesn't work right now. But I don't think Gareth Southgate is capable of doing something. Why he didn't change on the third game and he will change on the last 16th? There is no reason. He's going to be hammered if he loses because he changed some players and put some players, so-called the most talented players, on the bench. So no, he's not going to change anything. He's going to be late on substituting players for sure, because he's going to be hoping that the players on the field will perform at some point. So it's really, and Stevie alluded it today, it's really up to the players to take the leadership and to change something for England, because otherwise they're not going to do something good. I tell you, they're going to be surprised. See France in the quarterfinal against Switzerland 4 years ago. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. You are in a good bracket. Bye-bye. Nothing is sure.
No, nothing is sure, especially considering how terrible England have been. You're Gareth Southgate. What's the 11 you put out?
Well, I think... Is this what I would do with Gareth? Because Gareth Southgate...
No, this is you, Stevie. What would you do? You've coached. You know how to get the best out of these players to go on and try and get through to the final of this.
I think, like all things, sometimes the theory seems good, looks exciting, but the practical's different. You know, it's one thing to say they were rotten in the first game, they were rotten in the second game, they were rotten in the third game. So you know what? Why don't you just play all these young guys?
No, not play all of them, obviously. But if it hasn't worked...
It's not going to happen.
If you were second best against Serbia, against Denmark, and awful against Slovenia for the opening act, why would you stick to that plan if it's not working?
Again, you've got players that you trust. And the people you spoke about at the start of this show, your Harry Kanes, your Declan Rices, you know, Saka's been outstanding. You've got John Stones. Gahey's been good in this tournament. Trippier's always going to be at left back, and Walker's always going to be at right back. Pickford's going to be in goal. Right. So really, as far as I can see, he thinks his only conundrum in picking a team is who's the third man in the middle. I think he's going to trust these guys one more time to produce on the field.
The same 11.
And that's Foden and Saka and Kane up front. And I think as a coach, you'd absolutely go with the guys you trust. But
they haven't. They've let you down over the last 3 games.
But you know, we're saying they've let us down. But he's looking at all the other tournaments and all the other games that these guys have played in, and he's going to trust them again. He's going to trust them again.
And that's the right thing to do.
Well, yes, I think the majority of them. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would change anything if you played Palmer instead of Saka. I don't think that would change. I don't think that would change anything in his mind. Is what I meant. But Foden has to play. Kane has to play. Bellingham has to play. Declan Rice has to. I mean, there's like 9 players who have to play.
Right.
And we've just sat here, Frank and I in particular, and said the players have got to take a lot of responsibility. And so, if once again you're going to give them responsibility, you're basically saying, look, you haven't been at your best, but you know what? I know what you're capable of, and I believe that you can go and take us further. We're through the group stages. It's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new competition. Let's see what you've got.
What are you doing in training between now and that game?
All you do is try to keep everybody cheerful and keep them going. Plenty of finishing, get everybody up, get everybody excited. You know, you're not doing drills to try and produce something that you haven't been trying to do over the last 12, 18 months. It's about getting everybody in the right frame of mind, get them happy, get them ready to go. And again, as I said, he's going to use that word. I'm trusted you. This is the knockout stages. There's no comebacks if we mess this up. You've done it for me before. You need to do it now.
So who England's opponents will be is still yet to be confirmed. Of course, it could be Mario's Holland. It all depends on how things finish up with regards to the best third-place finishing side. So that's who England will face on the bracket. Well, this is the bottom half of the bracket. We'll see Switzerland take on Italy. That is confirmed. Austria, of course, surprise winners of their group ahead of France. So it's all basically down to who is going to be in this third place ranking.